Welcome to Sacred Healing, Mind, Body, Soul, where I provide medicinal herbal remedies and spiritual motivation. With the guidance of God, we can live a healthy and productive life. Thank you for joining Awake with Queen H.
How you doing, everybody? Glad to see you on tonight. Thank you for joining us on this special night. I have a beautiful and wonderful guest with me, Dr. Angelina Duran, where she's going to be coming in and dropping us a wealth of knowledge on childhood development. So I'm really excited. So y'all get your notebooks out, get ready to take some notes and hear some really vital information that we will need for our young children to be successful. So if you guys wouldn't mind welcoming Dr. Angelina Durand, you have the floor, sweetheart.
Hi, Regina. It is such an honor and a blessing to be here. I'm so excited. So I'm Angelina, Dr. Duran. I'm a school psychologist. I've been a principal, an elementary school principal for 10 years, and administrator working with youth, incarcerated youth, way before I was a psychologist, and just really have the honor of being a mom of two amazing little boys. So the perspective and the lens of child development, and especially nowadays, post-pandemic, all of the challenges in the world, in our society, it's important to reflect. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So can you tell us like your bio, like everything, what it took for
Yeah.
Angelina Duran to get to where she's at today, to be standing here and to be able to impart into these young children like you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I have gone through lots of different phases of my own development, right? As a Latina woman, navigating in the world with family and environment. I've had so many blessings, and I've just always been a high achiever. I've always loved to learn and explore. Growing up, broken families and just so many ups and downs. I think it was always interesting to me, the psychology behind it. I always wanted to know the why. Why are people making those choices? Why is life like this? Why are people's behaviors were always so intriguing to me. So I thought I wanted to be a medical doctor, and I worked in an emergency room as an EMT and ER tech for a while. And I really, the children and the psychology and mental health resonated with me. So I took the route and took a turn. And so I studied school psychology at the University of Colorado. And just continued to navigate, worked in camps with students with ADHD and behavioral concerns, and jumped into the world of education as a school psychologist in special education, helping leadership groups thrive in middle school and help kids become leaders. And then I decided to be an administrator, and I was elementary principal in a Title I school with a lot of disadvantage and challenges, and loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Wow.
So I went and got my doctorate. I graduated in 2019, and that is in the Latino cohort. It was the first Latino cohort in equity and diversity and educational leadership. And so a really cool fact. I mean, I know being a person of color, I mean, a Latina, I had a better chance of being a movie star. So less than 1% of Latina women get their doctorate degrees. And so being a high achiever, I did that for me. I did that that didn't do anything but just fill my bucket of knowledge, and me showing myself in the world that, even though the odds are small, you can do it. So at the University of Colorado, Denver, where I graduated, we were the largest cohort of diverse individuals to graduate with a doctorate at the same time in any United States university or college.
That is amazing. And those are wonderful, those are wonderful achievements. And that's what, we want our young, generation to see, that, these things are possible through
Yeah.
all the obstacles that come our way, that, there's a way that, they can navigate to it, in a way to where, what, maybe I don't have to take all these, you know, extra detours. Maybe if I just have some, like us being mentors, you know, that's
Absolutely.
so important, that there has to be mentors. We need to be dropping some, wonderful information into these young generation that will last them a lifetime.
Absolutely. And so, talking about resiliency, I know we kind of exploring, how do you overcome challenges? How do children, how do they thrive in challenging and different situations? Because life is not easy, right?
Mhm.
And so, one of the resiliency factors, excuse me, that you just hit on is being a mentor.
Yeah.
Having someone to lean on, someone you trust. It could be your mom, it could be your dad, it could be grandma, grandpa, auntie, it could be a teacher. So having someone in your corner that just believes in you and fills your bucket, I mean, is powerful. It's powerful. Yes.
And so, when you in the schools, that, because you're a principal, what would like some of the things that you personally was like, if I could just change this one thing, and I could see if I had the opportunity to change it, that the system that I'm trying, to make phenomenal, because it could work if you could put it into place, what would it be?
That really is within the research that I did for my doctorate, resiliency, again, and restorative practices. I feel like our society, which starts with educational systems, we lack the focus of restoring and conflict management, problem solving issues,
Mhm.
and helping children come together to make sure that they know and have the skills that if you make a mistake, you can repair that. You can apologize, not just apologize so you don't get in trouble, but
Right.
real connections. I think that goes with the adults too, right? We are the models. And so if I had a magic wand, I would have all schools just being restorative in nature and,
Mhm.
no judgment, looking at equity with a lens of everyone has a voice, everyone has their own perspective, and really helping children have that voice and empowerment to say how
Mhm.
they feel, right? How to stand up
Right.
for themselves and know that someone's going to support them through that.
That is important. That is important, because you know what? They do have a voice. And when something's not right, they should be able to speak.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't agree with this. Just because you're saying it, you train them to think
Yes.
for themselves. They're very. There's one thing that I know about children is they're very, 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 very resilient. Like you said,
Absolutely.
they're like a sponge. But you know what? Sometimes we can limit them, thinking
Absolutely.
that they're not capable when really they are capable. If you don't try to see what they're really capable of, you'll never know.
Right. And so, a tip that I had written down to just talk about, and I practice this as a mom with my own children, my two young boys, since they were little, very, very little, probably not even able to talk, babies. I would tell them that they had special powers, right? I'd be like,
Mhm.
don't you worry. You got this. This is going to be an amazing life, right? You're manifesting what is going to be.
Right.
And then I would tell them when something is really hard, because there's temper tantrums and there's moments and they're just learning how to navigate the world, or they're hungry or tired. I just remind them, like, obviously take care of basic needs, which I know we'll talk about here shortly. But I think it's so important. I would tell them, you have superhero powers.
Mhm.
So you choose, and I would have them choose which superhero resonated with them and what they want, what power they wanted. And I would say, I'm Wonder Woman, right?
Right,
These
right.
things are hard, they're gonna
Yeah.
knock me down, and I'm gonna get back
Yeah.
up.
Right.
So
Yeah,
they
you are
believe
Wonder
that.
Woman.
Yeah, they believe it. You tell them that what you tell kids, they believe,
Oh, yes,
right?
they do. That is
So
wonderful. That is true. And you know what? You are Wonder Woman. A single mother. doing all this. Yeah, I'm a Wonder Woman.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No,
Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we got to really, really speak life into our kids, literally speak life into them and, and show them that, hey, you can manifest it. If you can believe it, you can have it.
absolutely. I know. And I was gonna put up a little plug-in. I know this is like oh, it's blurry, but like the superhero books, like
Okay, go this way. Yeah, wait. Yeah, that way. Right. Wait. Right there.
this is,
5 minute
there's
story.
some superheroes, right? But I
Yeah.
wanted to remind, everyone as parents out there, or if you spend
Okay.
time with kids, that you read, right? You read, you find those stories and you have them read about the superhero that they want to be.
Right.
You read about the stories of how they overcome, and they will do it. They'll
Right.
step up to it, like the
And that's
expectations.
what was it about that approach for you that stuck out with what you're doing right now?
Um, you mean just like the reading and the
Yeah.
it's the manifesting,
Right.
right? Like there's the Bible stories. We read the Bible at night, and my kids ask to read the Bible, right? And
Right.
they love the stories. But we have to find age appropriate books too, right? To make sure that
Right.
they're understanding, and um, you're just filling them with knowledge. But
Hmm.
the part where like you have to have books, like look around your house. How
Right.
many books do we have nowadays? That's really rare to see a bookshelf with books, right?
Hmm. That's true.
As adults, right? Like, are you reading? Are we just reading on our phone? And that's okay. We have Kindles and we have all of that too. But
Right.
if you set aside reading time, like it's
Hmm.
just another model. And I don't have very much time to read for pleasure. I'll have audiobooks or
Right.
whatnot. But if there's a book that I feel I want to read, now I'll
Yeah.
read a chapter book at night with my older son. And
Okay.
we were reading Home of the Brave, which was about a story of a
Right.
little boy in Africa that lost his mom and refugee. And so he goes
Right.
into all these different directions, and it opens the door to have really rich conversations and allowing kids to be like, what do you think about that?
It
Right?
does. Yeah, it really does. We should read. I remember there was a certain point in my life where I went on a binge of reading. Like
Mhm.
literally went on a binge, and I, for what reason, I don't know, but it was time. And it was just like you said, it was like I was just like reading this, reading that, reading this, reading that, and it got to the point where it's like I need to get like more. And before you know it, I was just like read, read, read. And there's the times where I take a break and I'm not reading as much like that anymore.
Yeah.
But it does, it helps you. It really, really does. And we should teach our children that it's there for you for the taking. Like the knowledge is there for you. Just pick it up.
Absolutely. It's huge. It's so, you know, I thought I had the book Dr. Seuss, Oh, the Places You'll Go. That's one of my favorite books for, 4, 5, 6 year olds. I often
Yeah.
give that to high school graduates, right, as a
Uh-huh.
gift. Oh, the places you'll go. But I like to, and that was another thing of like what our expectations are for kids.
Right.
The bar has to be high. If we
Yeah.
set it low and we don't think they can do things, they're not going to do it, right?
Mm-mm.
And they're not going to believe in it. So raise the bar high. I mean, as a principal, kindergartners knew. I'd say, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" And they'd be like, "Miss, I'm 5." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. You should know that by now, right? Like that's your homework." And you could change your mind a million times, but are you
Right.
thinking about that?
Right. You have to
Right?
spark something. You're never too young.
No, I mean, and you'll ask little
Right.
Cohen in his preschool graduation or his ceremony at the end of last year. They had each kid go up on the microphone and say what they want to be. And there were all these great things. And then my little guy goes up there and he says, "I want to be a mechanical engineer." Right? And I mean, people are like, "What?" And I was even like, "Oh my gosh."
What?
I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
we
No, he
dream
knew.
big.
He
Yeah,
was claiming it. He was claiming it.
he was.
And you
Yeah.
know what? And that's how it starts because you do hear stories like this where they said, this is what I wanted to be. I was 10 years old. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. And then they ended up becoming, but sometimes people don't, you lose the essence of that. that these children, they do need that.
Absolutely. And you cheer them on. You tell them you be whatever you want to be, but let's talk about that. Right? When they start doing really well, you just say, wow. Or if they're argumentative and there's moments and they're really good at arguing a case with facts, you say, I can't wait for you to be a lawyer, right? And you're going to support me. So just like sometimes we have to shift the perspective because it's not easy being a parent, right?
Exactly. Now, Angelina, how about like when we're talking about the overall childhood development, like what we're doing, what factor plays in with physical and, you know, their nutrition and all that goes with it?
Oh, that's a big one, right? And we forget in the hustle and bustle of life and packing our lives with so much, like being overscheduled. Sleep is so important. The routines and sleep is critical, right? If kids need a nap, you have to find a way to get them a nap, right? And work through schedules and get them to bed at a good time and a good routine. You know, if you have time to read before bedtime, and dim the lights, essential oils, right? Calming music, like setting the environment and the tone, because you're modeling that, right? As adults, we need to learn to just chill and let the day go and relax, recoup, to rejuvenate, to start over again. But kids, especially growing developmentally, their bodies are growing, their brains are growing. Sleep is so important. And then on top of that is their nutrition. So I've been reading a lot of books about feeding our brain, because we often look at diets to look good, right? To feel good or to look good. But we have to also remember kids, especially, you have to give them the right nutrients, like some clean eating. We have so much processed foods nowadays, not just McDonald's and fast food, but the processed foods that we put into a microwave. The body breaks that down so differently. And so soda, right? Are kids eating soda? Are they drinking soda? You know, and I'm one, like, as a special treat, right? Oh, we're having root beer floats. Great.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or once in a great while, if we're having a get together, they're like, what? I get a Fanta? And I'm like, yeah. And you make it a special thing. But that's important. That's critical. I mean, if you're not giving a balanced nutrition diet, putting snacks in their backpacks when they're going to school, I put extra snacks.
Okay, in their backpacks.
Yeah. Just having some healthy snacks in there, and food. Because when kids get irritated and they're low energy, it's often because they need some nutrients.
So throughout the day, from the kids, you know, having breakfast, and hopefully they have breakfast by the time they get to you, a snack in between lunch or after lunch.
If they're really little, usually kindergarten, first grade, second grade adds a snack in the before lunch, or they have lunch really early built into the schedule. Yeah,
those are important things that some people just don't know. Really. Yeah, you know, seriously, you know, you just go to school. Hey, breakfast at home. You know, you just go to wait till lunch, and then you're right. They are probably really hungry. They're irritated. They're frustrated. You know.
And then monitoring what snacks. So some schools provide snacks, and parents will rotate sending snacks to the schools. But then monitor that and check. Like, did they have a little bag of cookies? There were 5 little cookies in the snack, because that doesn't hold. Right? I mean, that tastes good. And if they had a glass of milk with it, then maybe they're okay.
Right. Oh, yeah. I get you. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Exactly. The nutrients, right? And I know my mom was just in town visiting this past weekend, and we were talking because, you know, after school, my boys come home, so like they're starving, right? And they just want to eat anything. And that's when it's easy to grab Doritos and Cheetos and all the, you know, all those, the junk food kinds of things. If you're going to do that, right, get a bowl and portion it. right?
Mm-hmm.
Teach kids to portion. Like, yeah, no problem. I have Doritos. I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'll put some in a bowl. And they get this little bowl with like some in there. And it looks like a lot because it's a little bowl. And then in
Right.
the meantime, I have carrots and,
Right.
broccoli and some ranch. And they're like, if they're hungry, they're going to eat what you put out.
You're absolutely right. And you know what? It's important that we start them young. It really is, because when they eat all the sugary food, by the time they get to dinner, they're not hungry.
No.
They don't want to have nothing. They don't want to eat no dinner. Whatever you cook, you might as well forget it. They're over here barely taking a bite because they done got all that sugary stuff up until dinner time.
And then when you go to bed, they're going to say, I'm hungry.
Yeah, then I'm hungry. No, you should have ate.
Right.
Right. You're right. It's very important to have a good nutrition for them.
Yeah. And kids should not say, I'm hungry. Like if they're hungry, feed them.
Yeah.
Feed them.
Yeah, feed them.
Right.
I remember that when my kids were hungry, they ate. There was no limit to what, but
Right.
I had good stuff around for them to eat. So like you said, they didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
They were hungry.
Yeah, I know. I'll get a small snack of like nuts or something quick if they say I'm hungry. When it's almost bedtime, and it's like, okay, well here's some choices. Here's some right. We just like adults. If I need a protein shake or something quick, because I exerted more energy. But I know it's also important, like from my perspective, being parts of clubs and activities or some kind of activity for kids to develop some social skills or trying things out, right? Getting them away from electronics. It's so easy for someone to just get hooked on video games and then they forget and don't know how to socialize or slow down their brain. So then they go to school and they're on super speed. And then they show up with breakfast with a Mountain Dew, right? Because they think they're tired, which they probably are, because your brain just gets wired with all those electronics. You don't sleep well.
Wow. So you see a lot of that then, I take it.
Yeah, I mean, and when it has crossed, my life, I have a conversation, right? Help me understand. Did you know so and so was bringing soda in his backpack as a snack? And they'll say, yeah, it's just a pick me up, and I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about that, right? Let's figure out, and let's, when was the last physical? Let's talk about the balance. Let's talk to our school nurse. Let's figure out what's going on here, because those often kids that have poor nutrition get in trouble in school.
Yeah.
Right. I know
it's so important that you're saying that, because people don't see the holistic part of what you're doing.
Right.
Yes. It's so true. It is true.
Yeah.
With behavior problems and all that other stuff, you're absolutely right. Because some of them, it doesn't really kind of go with them.
No.
Some kids it doesn't bother them, and some kids it just has them wired up and just loose.
And that's their norm, right? That's what they know. And so many times I've had students who needed a break or something was going on where they just weren't making the best choices or just had a lot of extra anxiety or whatever was going on. And having, a really great health clinic and a team, more often than not, they just need TLC and a snack.
Wow.
And then you go back, you say, you got this, right? You cheer them on and you're just like, you got this. But then filtering out, like if it's a pattern, then we need to be partners with the school, and the families need to be partners. Like you need to be involved in your child's school, knowing what it's like there and listening to your child and asking them every day, how do you feel about school today? And knowing that it's okay when you ask kids, how was your day? And they're like, it was good. You just leave it at that. Like, what was good about it? Well, recess. Like, kids are just done, right?
They're done
with your questions and ask about their friends or, different things, and but be involved. If you're involved, then you know more. Checking in with the teacher, checking in with the office, like Are they eating their lunch? Are they, is
Right.
everything
Exactly.
because they talk a lot too. Kids talk social hour at lunchtime.
Yes.
And so they have 20 minutes to eat. And sometimes they don't eat. They eat a couple bites.
And that was it. Exactly. That's true. You're absolutely right on that. I do remember that. That's how my boys were in middle school. I was like, I'm hoping that they're eating, what they're supposed to be instead of running their mouth and who knows what, because they would come home hungry.
Yeah. They're just growing.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's really sounds, like you said, those are some really good, things that we need to pay attention to. What also with what is it like sleeping schedules? Because I know some of these kids, they don't go to bed on time.
Yeah, and I
They
think
don't
that
have like they can go to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and you're in like even middle school. That's late.
yeah, there's different ranges, right? And if you look it up, I'm sure there would be a lot of different perspectives. I think when they're really little, toddlers to 5, 6 years old, they need extra sleep.
Yeah.
So I mean, starting bedtime routine at 7:15, 7:30, helping them get away from the electronics,
Yes.
calming, take a bath, get to bed. 7:30, 7:45, the littles.
Mm-hmm.
Like 8 is pushing it, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
other elementary age kids are usually around 8 o'clock, 8:30, 8:45. But really people should be in bed. And I work with a lot of high schoolers and middle schoolers as well. And we talk about self-care and how many fruits and vegetables are you eating? Because you have to start to empower once they're middle school, high school, you
Right.
need to empower them to make good choices, right?
Right.
Hopefully you're laying the foundation when they're younger and then it's instilled in them, but we're
Right.
still coaching, right? As parents, we
That's
are
true.
life coaches for these kids. So we
Eh,
have to make sure that we're reminding them, like, okay, well, what's your favorite fruit? What's your favorite vegetable? And when I
Right.
work with teenagers, I'll say, okay, well, next you need to have a conversation with your family because they provide for you. So
Right.
you just say, Mom, can you please buy me some blueberries and some strawberries, right?
Right.
And some vegetables, and communicate and say please and thank you, and try to have that self-care. So it's so important. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
nutrition.
very important that yeah, that we must, definitely,
Yeah,
that's like and that needs to be taught more. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Self-care. Every child should know how to self-care. Also, what was it like? You get students, and they're just like they just seem they just can't get it in the classroom. Like like you have
Mhm.
some children just like they try, but then they give up and then they get frustrated, and then you have some that just like either just they're not getting it, they're not understanding it, and but when they get to that point they get like anxiety,
Mhm.
the behavior starts changing.
Yeah, so that's where it's really important to be involved and ask questions and pay attention to the parent teacher conferences, right? And trust the school. Or if you notice on your end that they're not like you feel like they should be doing better, right? You have
Right.
some comparison, or you just feel like something is off. Having that communication with the teachers and the school to say, okay, well, where are they falling in comparison to same age peers, right? Because
Uh-huh.
if you're not making the mark, why? What other interventions are you doing? Are you helping them, or is there some type of learning disability or
Right.
some blockage, dyslexia? There's so many different factors. We're all wired differently, and it's
Right.
okay. But early intervention is key, right? If a child needs speech therapy, then that needs to be implemented immediately. And you need to
Hmm.
hold the providers accountable and make sure that they're meeting with your child and they're showing the progress reports, because then kids grow out of that. They'll grow, they'll learn.
Right.
But there has to be interventions, and sometimes you have to be persistent, and your child's biggest advocate to say something isn't right and we need to figure out what's going on. And
Right.
not just to label, but to do something about it.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
all kids can learn. All kids can learn.
Yes,
We
they
have
can.
to believe in them.
We
Yep.
do. We have to believe in them. Well, our time is coming to an end, you guys, and I enjoy this. And we're gonna definitely gonna have to do some more of these topics and really break it down to help, our young generation coming in, and we can have a better success. But we thank you on tonight. Thank you, Dr. Angelina Duran, for joining me and bringing this wealth of knowledge that is so beneficial to our people. But you guys, we got to go. So thank you guys for joining us on this evening. And we will be closing out. So stay tuned. Take care. Bye bye.